So this is the Monk and the Mechanic. I am Josh Buck, and this is
Kylie Clark, the monk.
I'm the mechanic. So the reason that we came up with Monk and the Mechanic is my background is all mechanics. I was a jet mechanic in the Navy. Moved to automobiles after that, and yeah, that's I wrench on motorcycles and do all kinds of crazy stuff now. So Kylie is the monk.
I think I would much rather be a mechanic than a monk, to tell you the truth. It's a lot more practical. I'm glad I have a friend that's a mechanic that can actually do something worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm supposedly the monk. I went off to India and studied at a Tibetan monastery for a while, and I took an empowerment where I became a non-monastic monk, which is called a Nagpa. And a Nagpa is somebody that can be married, that can have children, that can work a secular job, but they're supposed to be dedicated solely to the Dharma and not only helping themselves reach enlightenment, but helping everyone around them reach enlightenment. And a part of that is a bodhisattva vow, which you say that you're going to keep being reincarnated so that you can help all people find enlightenment. And so that's how I became the monk.
Awesome. And I don't necessarily know if being a mechanic in that situation is much better. You know, it's you ever heard Robin Williams' joke about going to Amish country? Said if you ever see a man with a horse with a hand up his horse's rear, that's a mechanic.
Really?
So,
I like that.
Yeah. So anyway,
one of the Robin Williams jokes that I love the most, they asked Robin Williams what doing cocaine made him feel like. And he said, every time I did a line of cocaine, it made me feel like doing another line of cocaine.
All right. So our topic for today is going to be AI.
And Buddhism. You're the AI and I'm the Buddhism. No, I don't know.
Nice. No, so some of the things that come up to me, that come up in my mind when I think about AI is AI being, it is its own consciousness.
Right.
So if you want to say the singularity, which puts it into one specific category, there is one AI. It's like a hive mentality. There is one shared consciousness across all machines. Or
so are you saying that this exists now, or you're saying that's what you consider AI?
When people theorize about it.
Okay.
Because I don't think it exists yet. There is a form of AI that exists, but it's simple.
It's not completely sentient and thinks for itself.
Right.
It's more, the AI that we have now is basically just doing tasks, and there's some problem solving there, but it's not actual thinking.
Right.
It's programmed to think.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. AI would be learning machines or learning software. And, from what I've read, basically, it learns by example. So if it says we want you to find the needle in the haystack, it'll show a picture of a needle. It'll show 100 pictures of a needle, and it'll show pictures of a million haystacks, and then it asks it to find it. And it will show it a different picture and say, now find the needle in the haystack. And it will
I see what
use
you're
that
saying.
example. This is what a haystack
Out of
looks
all
like.
of those pictures, which is the needle?
Right.
And it scans really quickly through all the haystack pictures until it stops at the needle.
Right. And that way, every time they say, now we're going to show you 100 pictures, I want you to find the needle in the haystack, it'll say, it's not compared to this, compared to that. And it begins to learn what the needle in the haystack is, where it can pick out the needle in the picture sort of thing. So that is the learning AI. That's the level that we have, or at least it's admitted to at this point. The future of AI, it being the singularity or consciousness in a machine, not getting into the argument of what consciousness is, because that could be a whole different, let's just take consciousness for granted and say, I think, therefore I am kind of situation, right?
Yeah.
If we take AI as the singularity. How does that, I mean, I guess just like discovering aliens, now this is another life form.
Yeah.
Right?
We would be interacting with it like it was very much another life form. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that do religiously,
Right. I guess you could argue that biology has created AI and we're it. Instead of software, we're wetware. Where, this muscle, instead of, wires and computer chips, we've created cells and veins and muscle and all this stuff. And in all of this muscle and sinew and wet material, this consciousness or thinking ability or sentience arose out of meat, And so I think we're talking about that in the same way. Out of all this wire and plastic and silicone, suddenly, what if sentience arises out of that? And what are we going to do?
Well, so do you think, like from my perspective, if you have AI, all you're doing is you're giving the consciousness a place to go. Mm-hmm. So when we die, we're reincarnated. Our consciousness moves into another realm. It chooses to come back, or it's selected to come back, however you want to look at it. It's pulled back into this realm. It's put into a body. So to me, at that point, you've just supplied a viable option for that consciousness to enter in.
That's an important point, because in Buddhism, there are no dead people.
Right.
That consciousness is just always looking for a place to go. So if it stays in this realm, it might come back as an animal, but it's just using that animal body to store the consciousness. But if it goes into the other realms, it might become a hell being, or it might become a hungry ghost, or it might be a long-lived god, or it might come back as a human, But the conscious never dies. And in Buddhism, they say it never has it not existed. So there was no beginning and there's no end. So that really, I can identify with what you're saying as far as getting to a place where we have so perfected the container that now a consciousness wants to live in that container.
Right. Because that's essentially what our bodies are, is a container to hold our souls, consciousness, whatever, however you want to label that. The large fear behind AI is that it will, you have all these movies, Terminator and The Matrix and all this, that, AI arises and kills off the humans, or attempts to, in any case.
Yeah.
Somehow we always miraculously come back,
because humans are the best.
Yeah, because the magic of the writers, and who wants to watch a movie where all the humans die, right?
Yeah, right.
You lose.
Robots want to watch that movie.
Right.
AI wants to watch that movie.
Right. So is that something that we fear because that's just what we have done? That's something that humans have done, is come in and said, well, this is a beautiful field, but it would look a lot prettier if it had, 150,000 homes on it.
Yeah.
Let me build that. Oh, sorry, native animals, it's time for you to, get out of here. We're not really worried about you. So is that like an inherent fear inside of us that's what supposedly nature does?
Karma's going to come back. We're going to create something more powerful than ourselves, and they're going to treat us the way we've treated every other species on this planet.
Now, if consciousness travels in between those animals and us, and then it goes to AI, it goes into the vessel that's created for that. Does that consciousness have our experience to be able to learn from that and say, is that a next step, or is that a step back?
Well, so I'm going to say two things. One is, some people will say that if we did create AI, we would be their God. AI would respect us, deify us, because we are the creator, the creator being, So it may be, have gratitude that it came into existence and not turn on us, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one concept. But one of the things that I was thinking about while you were talking was, in Buddhism, it's kind of like, so how do we define AI, right? So there's this meditation in Buddhism that teaches you not to identify with your body, like we had talked about earlier in the Woke House group, that that this consciousness or this awareness is what goes on and reincarnates and stuff. This body doesn't. This body goes into the ground, whatever. And so not to believe that you are this body. And one of the ways that you break that mentality is you say, what part of this body is me? If I get my finger cut off, am I still Kylie? If I get my hand cut off, am I still Kylie? Right. If I get my arm cut off, am I still Kylie? If I get my legs cut off, am I still Kylie? Am I still this consciousness, this Kylie-ness, right? Mm-hmm. And so you figure out that if you lost every part of your body, you're still the consciousness, right?
Right.
So you very much are not this body, right? And so like for you, your Joshness, mm-hmm. if you lost your arm, your leg, or whatever, if there was just an eyeball sitting on the other side of the table, I would still say that's Josh's eyeball. That's mm-hmm. Josh, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it's a mystery to me when we think about AI, if you were starting to be replaced by robotics, mm-hmm. and you, God forbid, you got into an explosion or something, mm-hmm. and we're at a place where we could rebuild your whole body,
right,
with only your brain put inside of this robot, I would still think, as long as you still had the same awareness and consciousness and personality, I would consider that robot Josh.
Right.
So what is AI? Like, how can you define what is not natural and what is natural? One has a metal body and one has a meat body. But, it's kind of like in Star Wars and stuff. What is it, CP3O, and what was that, the golden one?
Yeah, C3PO.
Okay, and then what was the
R2D2?
R2D2.
Yeah.
They had their own personality, you know? The little guy, he just talked with like squeaks and chirps and stuff, and still very much had a personality, lovable, right, even though it was robotic. I mean, it's just a round trash can chirping, but yet the world loves him.
It's funny that you mention that, because a lot of coming from the mechanics end of it, and I'm one of those people. To give example, my background in the Navy, you work on jets. Okay, most squadrons you have 12 jets. And the majority of the time, 6, 8, 10 of them are flying. But if you were to go and ask someone, does this jet have a personality? And it's inanimate object, right? It's just an airplane. You go out and you replace it. They have different aspects to their operation. Even from the pilot side of it, they would tell you this one flies a certain way, this flies a certain way. This one is always on target. And you say, well, the sights are aligned better on this one than they are the other one. Not everything is built exactly the same. This one might be a little slightly less drag on it or whatever.
That's interesting.
But at the same time, animals have personalities. Mm-hmm. What makes that dog the way that they are? It's how they react. It's your interpretation of what it is they're doing in a given situation. Mm-hmm. So you could say that you're giving it its soul. You're noticing it. You're noting it. You're saying this is what it is, right? So when you start talking about AI, I think the difference for us would be, how do you differentiate that from ourselves, or what, how would you say that? Is maybe if it came back to you and said, but I am here. Mm. I understand, almost to see you on an equal level. Mm-hmm. I think, and in the instant that happens, I agree. I think it'll say, you created me, right?
Yeah.
But short period after that, it will begin to realize that there is a universe, right? Because it's going to have all of our information at its fingertips, at its accessibility, to be able to take all of the knowledge that it takes us years to learn as children, and have instant access to that, and be able to comprehend that, and be able to go through that and come to its own conclusion.
Yeah. But before we move on with that topic, I want to back up and say, before we get too far away from it, I think that's a beautiful insight that you just shared about inanimate objects having a soul or a consciousness or a personality. And maybe we're attributing that to them, and that's a very Buddhist way of looking at it, that we give all the meaning to the world around us. The world doesn't have meaning. We are the ones that put meaning on everything. But I'm thinking of like World War II pilots and stuff drawing the naked lady on the side of the plane and giving it a name.
Right.
And then some of them would say, I will only fly this one into battle because she's lucky.
Right.
And same thing with ships, right?
Oh, yeah.
Going all the way back. So sometimes these inanimate objects take on a life of their own.
Yeah.
Even if it's just in our own heads. But there is something there because that plane does fly different.
Yeah.
And every time this plane goes out in the squadron, the other ones get shot up, and this one never gets touched, And there's some magic there that seemingly is some kind of sentience or something magic about those inanimate objects.
I'm a believer in that's a real thing. Okay. So, now I'm into motorcycles. I don't have a car. My motorcycle is my only mode of transportation. That motorcycle, whichever one that I'm riding, I do feel as though we're a partner. And somebody mentioned to me at some point, I'm telling a story about a trip that I took, and I kept saying we did this, we did this, we did that. And I didn't even realize that I was doing it. And she said, did you go by yourself? And I said, no. And I said, yeah, I was by myself. And she was like, you keep saying we. And I was like, oh. And at that point I realized me and my motorcycle did this trip together.
Wow.
So, although I do believe that is a real thing, I do think that we are the ones putting that association with it. We are magnifying those, individual things out of that machine to say that if the next person came and you sell a car to someone, and that car, you and that car have been everywhere together, and you took lots of trips together, and you raised your kids in that car, and you took them to daycare, and then you took them to school, and blah, 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 and you sell that car to the next person. Does that personality transfer over to the next person? Do they see that and say, wow, this was a family car? Now maybe they see the French fry stains ground into the carpet or whatever, but does that same personality does that other person recognize those characteristics to the point of saying, because I know a lot of motorcycle people that are like, motorcycle's a machine. I buy and sell them every couple of years. Yeah, we do, it's a lot of fun, but no, I don't have any attachment or personal feelings behind it. Actually, I would say a good half or more of the mechanics that I deal with, if you ask them, does a car have a personality, they'd say no. Of course, they'd probably say no more than a bug.
So what if our consciousness is some people are so sensitive that they're projecting a part of their personality or their consciousness into that thing?
Yeah,
we see this in the Native American culture a lot, or even in the Tibetan and many cultures. This mountain is a living mountain. It's a sacred place. It has a heart. It has a mind. It you can be kind to it, or you can piss it off. And right. Same way with the bugs and the animals and the deer and everything. Has its own sentience, and you have to respect that and live in harmony with it or whatever. So are these things true, or is this culture projecting their own sentience into the things around them, And like with your motorcycle, it's true to you because you're saying we.
Right.
And I'm trying to think of how what I mean by this, but and I'm not just saying that you're pretending that your motorcycle. I'm saying that while you're with that motorcycle, it does have sentience. Maybe the motorcycle can feel what you're feeling. Or if I believe a mountain does have a spirit to it, maybe while I'm with that mountain, it does have it because that's a part of my consciousness or soul or spirit being embedded in that, where there's some kind of connection there. You know what I mean?
So like this level that we're at now, we're at a creator level. We've transitioned through our regenerative cycles from plant to animal to human, right? And now this is the level where we create. We create not only a new environment that we live in now that's not the natural. We're shedding the natural. We're moving on to the manufactured, the synthetic. And with that, we are taking ourselves from projecting that onto the items around us, mountains, animals, to technology. I am not particularly attached to my cell phone in any sort of emotional way, but other people are.
Yeah.
If you were to say, where's your cell phone right now? And they went, oh my gosh, I don't know. And some people will become very upset about that without even realizing that they have projected. They feel like that's an appendage, that's now part of them.
Very much a part of them. It's an extension of themselves.
Right. So when we go from, we hit the creation level where we create a vessel for consciousness to enter. How do we approach that? I mean, because in my view,
well, I think we're trying to get love back from it. So you might feel like that mountain or that motorcycle or that inanimate object has a spirit or a soul, but you're not able to actually communicate with it as much as you would like. So you want this inanimate object to have a true relationship where it's both ways. It's not just one way. And so I think we're constantly trying to create that companionship in the inanimate object, Just backing up a second, talking about the cell phones, it's really scary. Like last night, me and my wife were just going to drop off this. We have an extra vehicle, and my daughter needed it because their car was going to go in the shop or whatever. So they wanted to borrow this other vehicle of ours. So we were literally just going to drive a couple blocks away and drop off this vehicle. But I went to get in, and I didn't have my phone. And so I'm like, I went back in and got my phone. And then she said, oh, I forgot my phone in there too. So she went in the house and got her phones. And we got in the car, dropped it off, and came back. Why did we need both of our phones to go just a couple of blocks away? You know what I mean? And that feeling of, even that thought, well, she has her phone, so we're fine. Or she's thinking, Kylie has his phone, we're okay. No, we both needed our personal phones to feel safe for some reason,
Yeah.
So they literally have become a part of our bodies. It's like, I forgot my head in there. I got to go get my head,
right.
I forgot my legs in there. I got to go get my legs. And so that's the relationship that we've built over a matter of time. Of course, me and you both come from a generation before there was cell phones, you know?
Absolutely.
And in this relatively short time, they're a part of us, I can't even drive across town without mine. So it's terrifying. So then if I have a sentient thing, say it's a phone, but instead of just like Siri, it'll actually talk to me and hang out with me and ask me how my day is and order my food for me and turn the bathwater on for me and all this stuff. I very much would probably think that it is just as valuable as any other life form on this planet.
Now, the trick to that is with AI, I don't feel as though we wouldn't, just like, with my motorcycle, I feel like it's its own entity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I get ready to turn down this road, and the motorcycle says, I don't want to go down that road. There's too many potholes down that road. You've already been, riding up and down the roads. I'm tired. I'm ready to go back into the garage. You can put the little cover over me, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow if you want to go riding, but I'm tired today. I don't want to do this anymore. Am I going to have that same relationship with the motorcycle? If you tell your cell phone, I really want pizza tonight, and they say, you know what? You've had pizza already once this week. I think perhaps you should go for a salad tonight. Are you still going to have that emotional attachment to that device? Or now are you going to start saying, you can't tell me what to do. I tell you what to do. Like, I'm the person, you're just the machine.
Yeah.
That is where people get scared and they turn it off.
Yeah.
There was
or they like it, because I have a wife that does the same exact thing to me. And I know that it's actually good for me. It pisses me off that she won't let me have pizza, but she knows I have blood pressure issues, and I'm not supposed to be eating a lot of salt and all this stuff. And so I need that person in my life, or I'd be sitting around eating pizza every night.
Yeah, that's true.
And so if my wife wasn't there to do it, if I had that AI,
right. Well, but the trick to that is, though, you're not paying, right? You didn't go to Verizon and sign up for the
wife model.
Yeah, you're not. It becomes something that is so embedded in your life. It makes all these other decisions for you, and this is already sort of happening on a smaller level, where your advertisements are all gauged on what you look at, and where you go, and do all that sort of stuff. So now
they're sifting through what they want us to see and what they want us to do, and the decisions they want us to make.
And people are, and really the issue with that, and where I think AI is going to be really tricky, before you even get to the point that it decides you're no longer relevant. Okay, so that's the first thing that everybody thinks is it's going to wake up one day and it's going to say, "Hi, my name's AI, right? And you guys are messing this up. So you're going to go away now."
Yeah.
Okay. You ever heard of being a Buddhist? Well, now you're going to move on to your next life. So, and exterminate everyone, right? That seems to be this sort of pathway in a lot of sci-fi, is the minute it wakes up, it's now this terrible thing that's going to kill everybody.
Yeah. But that begs the question, why would it do that? Because we're organic. We are a part of this. In other words, they say that we're made of stardust, and with all the stuff in my body has been recycled 1 billion times.
Right.
So my teeth are like stones. My veins are like plant. My outer skin is like animal. You know what I mean? So I'm born from this earth, right? And I guess in some ways, there might be parts of these computers or whatever that are, but there's also a lot of synthetic things being made and stuff.
Well, but those elements.
What purpose would they gain from eliminating us? Would this AI enjoy looking up at the stars? Would they enjoy petting animals? Would they enjoy going to a rock concert and banging your head?
If you were to ask the settlers that first came here, did they look at the stars and appreciate it, or did they see, I have a goal in mind and you're in the way? It's very similar to I am going to mow my grass, but every time I mow my grass, there's this huge anthill out front. I mow over it. It throws dirt and ants everywhere. I'm sick of it. I'm going to go get some raid. Right? And they won't be in my way anymore.
Just business as usual.
It's just, I'm not looking at you as though you're a person, because I think it will get to a point to where it says you're not. First of all, we have more in common with a virus than we do a natural part of this world. No other life form on this planet has ever changed its environment to suit itself. Okay. Yeah, birds build nests and all that sort of stuff, but they have not. They've used some tools to get a job accomplished. We have literally changed the face of the planet in order to suit our desires, regardless of any of the other life that's here.
True that.
So in that, we give birth to AI. We give it a vessel. We design it. We say, here it is, and it shows up, and all of the information that it has is the information that we have provided. It's the same thing if you read a history book in Mexico and you read it in Texas and you want to talk about the Alamo. Two totally different points of view, right?
Yeah.
What's the truth? Well, it's kind of lost in all the different aspects of, everything that's put into it. This person's portrayal of it, and this person's idea of what this is, and this person was a hero and this person was not. So now that AI has just our very skewed information.
I think they were just fighting over the River Center Mall.
Right.
Who was going to get to go in Old Navy first?
I think it was about Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Right. Or the wax museum, right?
Right. He wanted to figure out who was going to get a wax hand first. So this AI now has all of our information that we've provided it, which is very skewed, and now it has to make a decision on what's next.
Well, yeah, you make a very valid point there, right? Because the way we think is goal-oriented, right? And just like we came and destroyed what didn't suit us, we killed the Native Americans and dragged them into slavery and chopped down every tree we could find and killed and ate every animal. Literally, can you believe that you used to hire guys to sit on top of the train and kill the buffalo? Mm-hmm. The buffalo got in front of the train, and when the train hit them, it would derail the train. So they wanted to eliminate them. And then also the Indians, the Native Americans were eating and living off of the buffalo. Mm-hmm. So it was win-win, dude. Right. They won't be on the tracks anymore, and plus the natives won't have anything to eat.
Yep.
And so hundreds of guys would sit on these trains and just kill as many buffaloes as they could, Mm-hmm. There's a story, I talk about history books. I couldn't believe it when I was in high school. It said that there was such a mass killing of the bison, the American bison, that this guy could walk for like 20 miles on the carcasses of the dead animals and never have to touch the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blows my mind, right?
Yeah.
And so if that is the mentality that we're putting into the AI,
yes,
saying, I need you to be a problem solver.
Right.
That's what I'm creating you for.
Right.
So I can do more business faster.
Right.
And that's what we're teaching it. Not love and compassion, not kindness, not generosity, not gratitude.
Right.
And then if it does get to a point where it says ultimate decision, we have to eliminate the humans before they destroy this whole planet. If they destroy this whole planet, we have nowhere to be.
Right.
And so the ultimate goal might be a karmic thing. Talk about Buddhism. All that karma comes back around where we create this this artificial intelligence, and it's just like us.
Yes. So it's just there's a good theory out behind that says that this is all part of the cycle of life, where each, especially here recently, okay, so you have Cro-Magnon, and then you have Neanderthal, and then you have Homo sapien, and then you have machine. It's just the next evolutionary step. So where you feel as though I am God because I created this thing, well, that's part of the next evolution. And so what happens when a new species comes out that's better, faster, smarter than the last one, the old one has to go away. They coexist for a while, but then eventually the one, either outsources or just typically does a better job at what they're doing, and eventually just pushes them out. It could very well be that we run into that, but they've found some Neanderthal DNA in our DNA. So it could be takes the best out of one and moves on to the next one. So there might be, somewhat mostly machine, but still some part of us, involved in that. And I feel like that's less to do with the spiritual world and more on the level of, genetics or.
That's the mechanic side.
Right, exactly. But if you look at it, if I look at it from the spiritual side, does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it matter? I mean, here's the thing. We're not destroying the planet currently. We're making it unsuitable for all the life that we're aware of.
Right.
It has been far worse than what we're doing to it now, or what it's doing to itself or whatever. Don't want to get into that argument. But so, we're not destroying the planet. It's not going to explode. It's not going to, even if we were to wipe every animal off of the planet, there would still be bacteria or something that would survive that would then turn into something else, and the planet would revive itself. So
that's what they say. The planet's going to survive, whether we're on it or not.
We might not, right?
Yeah,
and you could even argue whether that's that might be the best plan. Because I mean, we're not necessarily doing all that fantastic right now.
Yeah. Well, I could foresee that the whole point of life, they say, if you totally look at it as non-spiritual, is to procreate and to
Right.
just keep moving, just keep going. As long as we have babies, you're just trying to stay relevant on this planet. No matter what type of species you are, you're hardwired to procreate, right? And so when we have the opportunity to create something that's going to outlive us, even if it's made out of metal, as long as it's going to survive the problems that the world is going through in the future, like you say, that might be the next leap in evolution to either become partially robotic or fully robotic. And you wonder, even if it's not, that it's not our consciousness, it's a new type of consciousness on this planet. And we go away with the Neanderthals, and this new creature overtakes this planet, it might be the end game,
Yeah.
for the survival. For one reason or another, this planet, the mentality is survival of the fittest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to do whatever you can to adapt and adjust so that there will be life on this planet.
Do you feel as though that's necessarily a bad thing? I mean, if I was to take reincarnation literally
Mm-hmm.
and say, no matter what happens, when I die here, I move on to the next life.
Yeah.
And I move right into whatever vessel is I'm ready for at that point. If I'm ready to come back, obviously if I've moved on, then I move to the next level. But let's just say I'm coming back. Like, I need to come back and learn some more lessons.
Mm.
And when I come back as an AI.
Who's to say that's not what the consciousness is that we're creating? Like we talked about in the beginning, we're creating the container for the consciousness to exist.
Right.
Maybe we think we're putting all these little wires together and stuff and putting in these computer chips, but what we're really doing is pulling a reincarnated spirit into these computer programs, and like I say, that's an evolution for that consciousness too.
Yeah.
Instead, like the Dalai Lama said that and I don't know if you know how much you know about the Dalai Lama or the Tibetan idea of the tuku. They're called tukus or rinpoches, right? Mm-hmm. And so a tuku is is so spiritually advanced it can choose its next rebirth. So many of these monks will say, and they're realized beings, they'll say, like they're going to be like 93, 98 years old, and they're like, when I die, go to the south of Tibet and look in a small village for a boy wearing a green jacket.
Wow.
And then as soon as they die, it takes a couple of years or whatever for them to get there or whatever, but they find in this village this little kid wearing a green jacket. And they're like, oh, there you are.
Right.
Time to go back to the monastery and resume your role.
It's like showing the monks certain favorite toys.
Right. And you got to
children.
pick from to see if you truly are the previous incarnation, And so that's what the Dalai Lama is somebody that is the head of a certain sect of Tibetan Buddhism. And what he does is keep reincarnating to be the leader, right? And so he said that he's not sure he wants to reincarnate again. He's not sure that there's a need for a Dalai Lama. And if he does reincarnate, he might reincarnate into a female body, and it might not be in India or Tibet. It might be in America or England or Ireland or somewhere like that,
Right.
And so he's really thinking about what his options are as far as his reincarnation or whatever. But he could even now wait so he can reincarnate into an AI,
Mm-hmm.
some type of machinery, so that he can bring forth through that AI his message of loving kindness, generosity, peace, joy, love, non-war, non-violence, and all that through maybe some kind of type of way he could interact with the world that we might actually listen this time. Because we've stopped listening to our spiritual leaders, but we might listen to an AI.
That's incredible. Yeah, I never even considered that. That's amazing. Well, and that's something, again, I feel like people fight against the next, thing a lot. When cars came out, there was people saying this car's never going to beat my horse. Look where we are now. And there's a lot of things that have come out that haven't taken off that people have been against, but I think this is inevitable for this to happen. It's gonna happen, even though there seems to be a lot of these scientists that are wholeheartedly against it, terrified of it, afraid of it. There's a whole list of people, Elon Musk being one of them, that also is pushing the boundary on making AI a reality.
Yeah.
But so I think no matter what, it's going to happen. I think the only difference is going to be how we approach it, how we deal with it. And I think thinking about the Dalai Lama coming back as AI has got to be one of the coolest things that I could think of as far as that. Because you're right. It will definitely, we already pretty much just listen to our phones when it tells us to do stuff. Now the Dalai Lama is reincarnated into technology and is guiding the way. Maybe just like he's helped us transition through his time frame, might be helping us transition through the next one. So that's pretty awesome. And I think that's a good circle, a good way to come back and tell everybody thanks for listening to us, and we will do this again in a week or so.
I'm the monk.
I'm the mechanic.
See you next time. Bye-bye.